Well, I think obviously we're all benefiting from the macro rates environment. What I think is specific to UniCredit is the further boost that we're getting from the transformation that we're executing. So if you look at our P&L, we have a beat on NII. That is due to rates, but also to a very aggressive management of the pass-through that we can do given our strengths. We wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't in that position. Fees are in line with our direction. They're a little bit below what consensus expected, but I think consensus did not consider that our fees are composed by transactional financing and hedges. Now, clients do less hedges in this environment than they did a year ago. And on financing, we have reduced our fees on current accounts, which obviously make the comparison more difficult. And on transactional, we put all of our securitization to accelerate the capital release that we want to be doing. But our investments are up, and therefore we are confident with the trend going forward.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about your guidance, though, because 2024, you're still guiding profitability in line with 2023, same intention to distribute $6.5 billion to shareholders. Given what you've just highlighted now, is that not perhaps on the cautious side of things?
Well, for 2023, we've done something that at this point we have reviewed our guidance on all the lines of the P&L, excluding the bottom line and excluding the distribution. And why have we done that? If you take the $6.7 billion we have made so far this year, it is clear that we will, excluding investment, excluding integration, excluding everything, blow out the 7.25. However, I think we look at 24, 25, and 26, and we're asking ourselves, can we take advantage of this situation of over-earnings and invest earlier and more aggressively in order to support the later years? Which is why we haven't said where we're going to land on the bottom line. It's going to be a decision on how much of the extra profit are we going to dedicate to future years by taking the charge this year. So we will go through better than 7.25, and this will link to the distribution, but we don't know by how much yet.
What is the outlook for net interest income in the coming quarters? We spoke in the past how we may be approaching peak NII. Are we past the peak now?
So for us, and remember we have a broad-based bank over 13 markets, so not every market is the same. But when we look at the blended, NII will slightly decline next year. So the rates environment will be more or less the same average rate, or we anticipate more or less the same rates as this year, but the pass-through will continue to move up. We will have some offset from our asset and liability management strategy, but I think NII is getting to a level where it's staying stable for a year or slightly decline, and then it's going to ease off.
So let's talk about that pass-through, because you've mentioned it a couple of times, and it's become a bit of a political hot topic as well. UniCredit has been criticized for, not just UniCredit specifically, but many of the Italian banks have been criticized for having a low pass-through, a low deposit beta. Do you feel the pressure to increase the beta based on all of the decisions by the Italian government the last couple of months?
So I think the pass-through is related to current accounts, and Italian banks have a stronger position in current accounts because our average balances are very low. So my average balance in mass market is 5,000 euros, 6,000 euros. When you have 5,000 or 6,000 euros, you're not very sensitive to the yield on your current account. What you're sensitive to is expenses. You don't want to be paying expenses because that affects you a lot more. We have reduced expenses to our customer, taking a hit of 264 million this year, which is why my fees are down at the moment. So in the current account, the strategy is if you're transactional, we're going to reward them relatively limited, but we're going to reduce the fees that we're charging you. We're also telling our clients, if you want yield, we can go in term deposit, we can go in government bonds, we can go in a number of other things where the yield is no longer the question of plus minus 50 basis points, is the question of plus minus 2, 3, 4 points. And that for us has worked. If you ask our clients, we don't get, and I get a lot of emails, I don't get a lot of emails on the beat on current account. I get a lot of emails on can I afford my mortgage? Can I afford my consumer loan? Because now we're not talking about 5,000 euros. Now we're talking about 250,000 euros loans.
Yeah.
That is why in UniCredit per l'Italia we have launched some abilities to freeze the payments for 12 months and helping the families that cannot get there to pay. So we are attacking the problem in that way, and I think it's the right one for the client.